Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT Pacific Week 2 or Week 3. Don't know exactly how I want to phrase this. Probably Week 3 power rankings. Just going to go through all the teams, kind of power rank them within these 5 tiers, then just go through my Pickems as usual, as I've been doing this year. Um, Honestly, I think this week was very informative on Pacific. Now, there were some teams that kind of had a weird week or had a weird week 1 and then a decent week 2, and now I don't know exactly what to do with them. But this power ranking was definitely easier than last week and should be a little bit more fun. If you guys are enjoying this series, or just anything I'm doing this year, and you don't follow me on Twitter, I would recommend going and doing that. You can go check out all of my player rankings for every region outside of China, obviously, because I don't cover China outside of the international stuff. But yeah, link to that's in the description. Like, subscribe if you guys enjoy, and let's get right into it. All right, so to start with this bottom tier, this is going to be very quick. Team Secret, I don't really want to talk about other than the fact that they like instantly gave up on their role swaps. Like they lost to Talon, and now Envy's back on Flex. Jesse Vash is over to Sentinel, and Wild Oreo's playing Scan Initiator. I guess technically Scan Initiator because it's like Teo and Gecko, so I would imagine he would play Sova if they were to play it on a map. But yep, just one of the worst teams in VCT. Period. Um, I don't think that's too much of a question, even though I do think Pacific is one of the better regions. Then Zeta, I have moving up. They beat Secret this week. Had a decent performance. I just want to see it against a real team. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, they did play like a really weird Icebox comp with ISO and Arena. XDLL played ISO on both maps, I believe. Yeah, didn't perform super well on either of the maps, so not ideal there. But CLC had a good game individually, so that's a good sign. Sugar Zero played pretty well, and Depp was fine. Like I don't know. I don't really have a ton of opinions on Zeta quite yet. I just need to see them. Like, who are they playing this week? They play RRQ. I think they could show that they're a decent team this week if they don't necessarily need to beat RRQ, but they need to have like maybe a map win and then a close map loss or something like that. I think would be a success for them against RRQ and would put them in a pretty good spot. All right, now on to the next tier of teams that I just don't understand why they're bad. Shit, I did not order my notes. Okay, well, whatever. I'll just have to scroll and find them. So we'll start with Paper Rex, who, I mean, it's just more of the same from this team, like kind of what you come to expect at this point, where they're just losing advantage scenarios over and over and over again, losing clutches, losing 4v5 or 5v4s, and yeah, I don't know. It felt like this week though that I mean, actually, this was more of a last week thing, and it's kind of tapering off a little bit this week. But they had some nice set plays and stuff. It overall looked fine outside of the throne clutches. Like Fracture was nice, and they have some nice individual moments here and there. But overall, just the roles are fucked. Everything is fucked with this team. Except, I will say, I thought Jing's Brimstone looked good, which isn't a high bar because that's like the easiest agent to play in the game. But I did think his Brimstone looked good. Um, that's really all I have to say because they like immediately swapped up their Haven roles again. They put Devi on Sentinel, Jing on Teo, Mind Freak back on Smokes. Um, they played this. I think they played this against DRX. This Lotus comp with the Waylay. Just play Yoru. I don't know why they're doing that. And then their Fracture comp is probably the best comp on Fracture in my opinion. I really like the Neon. I really like the Vise on that map, and I think it's just better than what. I mean, I know Genji only ran one agent differently, but I do think what Genji was running was just worse. So yeah, I think they need to make some changes. Kind of like what I said last week. I'm not believing in this team until they make a roster change. Then I have DFM, who I need to find them in my notes again. There they are. Um, I kind of have an overarching take on this team that I'll talk about at the end of this, but they lose to DRX. Honestly, actually, I don't really have much to say about this. Some of their individuals did play worse than last week. Like they had a lot of nice individual moments with like the four non-IGL players last week, but this week there just wasn't much of that. There was some nice stuff on Ascent. I think May had an ace or something like that, or some insane round. Really? Was it a 3K? I guess. Huh. I thought he popped the fuck off for a round, but maybe he didn't. Um, but yeah, overall, just a really disappointing performance from this team that I expected to actually be pretty decent. But I do think this team needs a new leadership core, whether it be the IGL coach or both. Um, it just feels like Art's mid rounding on this team is so bad, and this team's read on the meta is also not great. Like they're playing no Teo on Lotus, which I guess so is DRX, but they're playing double duelist to give them actual like exec power and stuff. Um, Whereas DFM's kind of playing a bit of an adapted version of the 2024 meta. Like it just kind of feels like they're trying to be DRX. Like they're playing Teo on Ascent, but it's like you're forcing Jinbong um onto the fade, and I don't know. I don't think Art was very good on the Teo. I struggle to believe in this team when they're running these kinds of comps. Like what did they play last week? They played Lotus and Pearl. And on Pearl, they did run the G2 comp, which is pretty good, but I don't think they did that very well. So overall, I think this team needs to replace those two like almost as soon as possible, because if they continue losing because they play Genji, Paper X, Boom, I think Genji they should lose that game. Boom they should lose that game. And then Paper X I think is a bad matchup for them with all their young players, but I guess they did beat Paper X already, so maybe they'll kind of have that experience against Paper Rex and be able to channel that into a win against them. But overall, just another very disappointing week for DFM, for me at least. Just because I was a big believer in this team because of the three great individual players of Mei, Akame, and Jinbong. Didn't know much about Jen, but he is playing very well so far. Then I have Talon. Oh man, Talon. Uh, Literally, what the fuck was that ascent? I d- just go, I don't know. I don't have much else to say other than just go watch Sliggy's rant about it on Flat Chat, because it kind of very much summarizes how bad that game was for them. I do think, what was the other map in that series? It was Lotus. I don't think Lotus was that bad from them. I think they had some nice moments on that. And I think if they can fix their ascent, kind of play maybe some more of the stuff that they did the week before, I think they could be a lot better than they were this week. But also, I just don't trust this team. They're so unbelievably inconsistent that, yeah, they'll probably make playoffs. Maybe they'll win a game in playoffs, but I highly, highly doubt this team is going to go to an international event this year. Like, you're forcing Killua onto a role that he's not comfortable on in the Vise. Primi's not good on Duelist. Um, I still don't. Or I guess Primi might be good on Duelist individually, but the teams, like when he plays Duelist, his team is not good for whatever reason. There's some players that are like that, like him. I don't want to like not Osbos, but like Osbos kind of has that thing where like that everybody else around him plays a little bit worse statistically. Um, I mean, sometimes they play better. Like this MIBR team looks like they're playing better, but like Lev, where it was like, oh my god, help Osbos. Like some of that was on him. I think MW Zero had a little bit of it where like he would look like he was playing individually well, but the rest of the team kind of faltered whenever he was on Duelist, stuff like that. I'm just not a huge fan of Pretty. I'm not fully on the like premise of Bader, but I don't think I think he's a stats player. And stats player and Bader are two different things. But yeah, I don't know. He's not as good as people think he is. I do think some of the new pickups are pretty good. They're just not using them correctly. THYY did have a rough map one though. I don't know if it's THYY or Thigh. Um, Someone will have to correct me on that at some point. But overall, just another disappointing week from Talon. All right, now on to some of these solid teams that are like pretty good, not great, but are definitely decent. We'll start with Nongshim, who are going to be moving down one spot, which I don't think is honestly fair. I think it was just more of other teams passing them up, even though they did look pretty good against T1. I think they actually looked better than they did week one. But on Icebox, I just don't feel like they abused T1's comp enough for my liking. Like T1 was playing Reina Chamber. So like you can try to lurk around the map a little bit more with only that one chamber trip, probably holding in kitchen. But they didn't do it unless they were on Nancy Eco and Margaret would just die in mid. I think that's what it was, or or they were on the Eco, so it didn't end up mattering. Either one, I don't remember. But either way, when they did the lurks, it just didn't end up mattering. I don't know why they didn't do it other rounds. But overall, I thought they played well. They kind of just got diffed by T1's superior individuals, and then in some like late round scenarios, like post plants and stuff like that, they did kind of mess those up a little bit. So it is getting better for Nongshim, and I would expect it to get better next week. But I do think this next team did pass them up this week. And that is, I mean, okay, maybe the other teams ahead of them passed them up. I don't remember. I didn't order my notes, so I don't fully remember the order that I had for these power rankings, but I do agree with this still. I do think GE passed them up last week, and did honestly GE looked worse than Nongshim this week, but week one they looked a lot better, so you would like to see that kind of maybe even out where Nongshim continues to get better, but GE gets even better closer to week one. I just felt like this team looked really nervous, like having actual expectations on their shoulders, because like week one wasn't really much. They played really well. Kickoff, obviously they had no expectations at all because they had a sub, but I don't know. I really am concerned about that part. Like if they continue to play that nervous how they did against Boom, was it, right? God, it's been so long since I watched these Pacific games. I'm recording this on the day that I'm uploading this. So it has been a while since I watched these. Yeah, dude. Lotus was really bad from this team. And I thought Haven was fine. It wasn't great by any means, but I do think a lot of that was kind of Boom messing up their attack side on Haven a little bit. So there was a lot of individual errors from GE in this game, mainly centered around like the decision making and mainly a hesitation, which led me to believe it was nerves for this team. So I'm not completely giving up on this team because nerves does seem fairly fixable, but they're definitely not all the way there yet as of right now. All right, now on to my next tier, which is teams that I think could is probably better for this team. Could be top 3 rather than should be top 3. I forgot to change that part. But I have RRQ here moving up 5 spots. I did think they looked really good. All their pieces kind of look good on their roles in this meta specifically, which I feel like they have a pretty good read on this meta as well. I think last week I kind of overreacted to them maybe choking at the end of a game against Nongshim. I think it was, right? As they usually do. Yeah, it was Nongshim last week. So I think this team will be good. They'll beat the teams that they should beat in terms of the teams that they won't have close games with. But if you're going to map 3 against the team, I would predict almost every team over RRQ outside of maybe the bottom 2 teams. They have not proved that they can finish out games, close them out at all. But Their meta reads have been good the past 2 years. Their players have been good the past 2 years. It's just that last map or being able to close out games and stuff like that, and whether they'll be able to do that. So I like RRQ. I've liked RRQ. I kind of dropped them a little bit too much last week, but just yeah, I they need to show me that before I'm willing to bump them up any more than this. Then next up we have Boom, who I think they looked really nice this week. They had VODs to watch on Global. Did a nice anti-strat on Lotus as well. That was part of the reason why Global didn't play very well as well. And then their Haven defense side was awesome. That being said, the Haven attack side did look very uncoordinated and stuff like that, but that did look fixable. And if they scrim that side a little bit more, I think they should be able to kind of get that down and play very well there. It was just like Famous going in a little bit early, people doing other weird stuff like that. So you'd like to see that improve. I think it will. This team looks very good. Kind of all the things I said last week with NC Slashers Util looking really good. Berserk's looking good again. Shiro had a really nice game on Haven as well. And Famous is disgusting, as well as Dawson9. Both of those players are amazing. So Boom has a really good shot of going into an international. I do think Genji has a slightly better one, and just strictly in terms of experience. I know Boom just beat Genji last week, and I don't think Genji had the best week this week. I'm not gonna lie, still, but like they played fine, and were kind of given map wins by Paper X on Lotus and Haven, mainly Haven. I think Lotus they did actually play pretty well. Suggested look a little bit better. Not great though. Ash a teeny tiny bit better, but still looking really uncomfortable on his role. But overall, I think they looked about the same as last week. I would expect them to get a little bit better, and I do still believe in this core three. So I am gonna put them over Boom slightly. If I think if Genji, like, let's see, who they play. They play DFM. I think realistically, as long as they win this game against DFM and then next week against Global and Boom doesn't upset DRX or whatever, I think I'll probably have these two teams 3 and 4 every week from now on, pretty much, unless one of those things happens with a big upset. Then I'll talk about my top two teams here in T1 and DRX. No surprises here. DRX still playing the double duelist. I do think Flashback looked a lot better on these roles as well. There's one specifically that I don't remember. Against DFM, Lotus, he played the Yoru. Flashback, he played the Vise on the set. So I think, it was Lotus where he played the Yoru, and it looked better. Looking like he's getting more comfortable on that agent. I would like to see the Haven again and whether they play that in the rest of the games. I still don't like them leading into these comps because it does feel like they're kind of just trying to copy T1, but without actually playing the comps that T1 plays. But if they continue to improve on the comps that they're obviously getting better at playing, I'm not going to complain too much. Also, Freeing playing I think it was the Vise on Lotus. Yeah, he was unbelievable. He went 26 and 6 in a 13-3, which is unbelievable. So, yeah, DRX played really well. And then T1, obviously, as I said before with Nungshim, their Icebox comp did not look great on defense. It's just not a great comp no matter what. Nungshim should have been able to lurk all over them, but did not for whatever reason. And then Meteor's like individual decision making was really questionable in this game. I think it was specifically Icebox, and then he started to heat up. I think he started to heat up toward the end of Icebox, being their attacking side. Yeah, he went 13 and 9 half two, but 4 and 9 in the first half. And then I think it was a similar story on Split. He went 9 and 7 first half, 14 and 9 second half, so it was about the same. But like, I don't know, it took him a while to heat up into this game. I'm not a huge fan of how his decision making has been this season. I thought he was actually very disappointing in kickoff, and then like Bangkok, he was in really really good form. If he is hitting all the shots, it doesn't really matter what he's doing. His decision making isn't that bad, but he does do some questionable stuff here and there that does concern you a little bit. But yeah, these are my power rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And now on to my predictions. All right, so last week I went 4-6 or 4 out of 6. So not too mad with that. I predicted Paper X upset Gen G, got that wrong, and then I predicted Talon to beat RRQ, which I did not expect them to completely shit the bed, but they did. So not super happy with that one, honestly. I want to get 5 out of 6 this week. Going through these, it was pretty easy for me. Gen G over DFM, they've just looked better. Even though they didn't look great against Boom, I think DFM has looked worse. RRQ over Zeta. I know Zeta had a good week, but not good enough to beat RRQ. They were one of the teams that I'm not predicting them if this goes map 3. Even though I do think it could go map 3. I will say that. Then Paper X Boom. I'm finally going to predict against Paper X. I guess I did against DRX. But I predicted them to beat Gen G. Just didn't like the matchup there that much with Paper X. But I do think Boom should be able to beat them. Their mechanics should be able to keep up with Paper X and get them through this game. Nongshim over Talon. I did have them one spot ahead in the power rankings. And I do think Talon's a little bit more inconsistent. I do think there's a very good chance that Talon wins this game, but I am pretty confident in Nongshim at the same time. Then DRX Global. I think DRX is just going to be too good in this game. They might need to bring out a more normal comp to beat Global if Global's actually playing well on the day. But also that is a big if of whether they can do that or not. And then if Team Secret beats T1, I will delete my channel. That is a joke, by the way. But also, like, not the same time, like, they are that bad. And T1 is still very good. So, pretty simple pick'ems this week for Pacific, honestly. I really don't have much to say about any of these. I think all of these picks were pretty easy for me. Obviously, I'll probably get 1 or 2 wrong. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.